Hello, today I'll be looking at the Soligor 135mm f3.5 manual focus lens. Soligor was originally the trademark of the American Allied ImpEx Corporation, ImpEx standing for Import-Export, which started in 1956, and it imported cameras and lenses from Japan. Soligor GmbH is a German manufacturer of photographic equipment, optics, and video surveillance equipment. And it was founded in Stuttgart, Germany in 1968 as AIC Phototechnik GmbH. GmbH stands for Gesellschaft mit beschränkter Haftung, which is German for company with limited liability. The company is currently located just outside Stuttgart, Germany, and still makes equipment today, although I have not seen any recent lenses. Now onto the physical characteristics. This is a 135mm manual focus prime lens. It has an M42 threaded mount on the bottom, and as with all of these old lenses, you can go to B&H or Amazon and buy an adapter for about $15 that will screw onto the lens, and then you can buy the adapter for whatever DSLR or mirrorless camera that you happen to have. I happen to have the one for Sony. The focus goes from infinity to 1.5 meters, which is about 5 feet. And the throw on the turn is more than 3/4 of a turn, which is really good. It gives you a large distance to be able to fine tune. The aperture goes from f3.5 to f22. And this lens is a little bit different in that it has two aperture rings. There's this silver ring that has clicks that goes about one click every half stop, except for 3.5 to 4, which is technically only a third of a stop. And most of these lenses from 16 to 22 is only one click. But then this black ring goes from whatever the silver ring is set to 3.5. And what that allows you to do is, say you want f11, you set the lens to f11, throw this to f3.5, now your aperture is wide open, you can focus in low light, and then flip it back to what you actually want. This can also be used sometimes in film to allow you to smoothly change the depth of field on a shot for some kind of artistic effect. Now onto the test charts. At f3.5, we can see the center is nice and sharp, and there's no chromatic aberration here. If we go to the corners, it's a little bit softer than the center, but overall it's not bad, and there's hardly any chromatic aberration. Now if we go to f8, the center is still sharp, and there's still hardly any chromatic aberration here. And if we go to the corners, they're still sharp, but the dark areas seem a bit lighter. That might just be the lighting. When I was taking these photos, the flash was just up and to the left of the camera, so the upper left corner of the image is a little bit lighter. If we go down to the lower right corner, we don't seem to see that problem, so that might just be because there was more light there. If we go to the distortion chart, there is no distortion here. This is just spot on. We can go around all the way, all the edges, down the bottom, back up the top, just no distortion. Now on to some sample photos. For this lens, I went to a park that had a buffalo statue at the entrance to the park. Here it is at f3.5, and if we zoom in, we can see the texture in the statue, which this lens was very easy to focus. Here it is at f8. And of course, if we zoom in, we can still see the texture, but f8 is easier to focus than f3.5. It's more forgiving because it has a larger depth of field. For the second photo, I went further into the park, and there's this statue of a Native American sending smoke signals. At f3.5, I focused on the face of the statue, and if we zoom in, we can see the face is in focus. But then if we pan down to the sign at the base of the statue, it's slightly out of focus. But then here's another photo where I focused on the sign, and if we pan back up to the face, you can see it's slightly out of focus. That's because f3.5 has a shallow depth of field, and it can focus on one thing but not the other. At f8, we can see the face is in focus and the sign is in focus, because f8 has a larger depth of field. This park also has some live buffalo in an enclosure near the back of the park, and I went to take pictures of them, but they were a bit far away in the field, and while 135mm is a okay lens for some things, it wasn't a long enough distance lens to get them. They were too far away. Plus the sun was kind of going down behind them, so they were backlit, and I had light coming straight into the lens, and I just didn't get a picture of them. So in conclusion, I like this lens. I'd never heard of Soligor before, and I was pleasantly surprised at how little distortion there was and how easy this was to focus. 135mm is a pretty good focal length for portrait work and for some kinds of landscape work, although wasn't good enough for getting the buffalo. So that's the Soligor 135mm f3.5 manual focus prime lens. If you like this video, please click the like button, and if you would like to see more videos like this, click subscribe and then ring the little bell icon to be notified of future videos. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next video. It is a 135mm. Somebody going by with bass. Go away with your bass. I don't need to hear your bass. Oh, come on. Where are you? Why do you need your bass that loud?